Hey, I'm Lex.
And I'm Gibby, and welcome to another episode of Porch Swing People.
Each week, Gibby and I grab all this podcast equipment that we have invested in. We sit down on our digital front porch and we bring on a guest.
We get to listen to their story of their past, their current present, what they've got going on, or sometimes what they hope to do or future aspirations.
Many of you might know this, but we actually have a third host who's always around, but just doesn't say anything. You know who that is, Gibby?
Mm-hmm. He is an old man that he's an old man.
Who's a dog.
Yeah. Good old Mo.
I love Sunday morning recordings. This morning, I was grabbing my stuff, bringing it into my little recording studio / guest room. And I was like, Mo, come on, we gotta go. Time for podcasting. And he hops off the couch and ran up here. He loves, I don't know what it is. It's so funny.
It's your Sunday thing.
You just come, yeah, he's like, I gotta be there. They're counting on me. So I wanted to bring it up because he works really hard to make sure he's here. So who do we have on the pod today, Gibby?
Today, we have a longtime friend. Go ahead and say it. Everybody's your longtime friend.
I don't have to. You just did.
Well, this one is probably the longest.
Really?
Other than my little brother, Dan.
Well, of course.
Danny Boone.
Who needs to come on the pod one day?
Yes. But our guest today is Frank. And Frank is our class and family genealogist and historian. He remembers everything.
Oh, my goodness.
It's kind of spooky because he's telling me stories about me that I have no recollection, but he remembers everything. And our big friend group that we have from our class, and I've told you guys, our class, we had a wonderful class, a lot of friends, but everybody's always in awe when we have our reunions. Oh, Frank remembers everything.
Oh, I see. Well, this is going to be fun. And you've been talking about how for a while Gibby has been saying, we need to get Frank on the pod. We need to get Frank on the pod. So today is the day.
Yeah. Well, let's bring Frank on.
Copy that.
Hey, Frank.
Hey. Can you see
Frank?
me? Hi,
Nope.
Lexi. Nice to meet you.
There you are.
Yes, I am here.
Hey, Frank.
Hey.
Frank, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast this morning. Can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, I was born and raised on the Mississippi in the same town that Gibby was, and grew up here all my life except for 6 months. I lived in Delaware for 6 months, and it was the worst 6 months of my entire life. I didn't care for the East Coast at all.
No hating on those Delawareans.
No.
We all like a place to be, of course.
Yeah.
My father lived out there, and on January 1st of 1986, I went out there to try to get a start out there. And on my birth date, 6 months later, I went to swim in the ocean, and I went running down the ocean, and I came flying back out of the ocean because it was only 51 degrees. And I thought I could be swimming in a river today. So the next day I packed up and moved back home.
There you go.
Oh, that was your sign that you needed to be somewhere else.
Yeah. You know, Frank, I still miss home. It's where we grew up. It's what we know. We have family there.
Yes, you need to visit more often.
Yeah, I do need. There's some folks I do need to go back there and visit. Frank, let me ask you this. Is this your first podcast?
Yes, it is.
Nice. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
About myself. Well, after I graduated high school, I hung around for a couple years, and then I ended up going to Delaware and coming back. And I did go to college for 6 months, and I pulled some hiatal muscles in my stomach, which kind of took me out of football, which is what I wanted to do at college. So that set me back there, and I really let myself go. And I got in. Some of the friends I've had since I was, 4 or 5 years old, they all like to do the party thing. So I fell into that. And
Not me.
I got out of that, thank
Good.
goodness. But by that time, my health had deteriorated. I ended up in 2018. I found out my left ventricle wasn't working, and I had to have a pacemaker installed. And then 6 months later, I met my soon to be wife, and we started dating. We went and, we dated a couple years. We got engaged. We got married in 2020. And then in February of 21, I was diagnosed with heart failure, congestive heart failure. My ejection fraction was 12%. It should be 50 to 70%.
Oh my goodness.
They put me on medications. I was on 8 different heart medicines. I am a diabetic. And the first doctor I had, she just kind of wrote me off. Like, you're too big. We can't do nothing for you really except give you medicine. And that hit me because it wasn't acceptable. We're not going to close this book until I say it's closed. So I started becoming a heart expert. Everything I could find to study about my heart, learn about my heart, learn about my body. I switched to a local heart doctor. He was more realistic in me doing what I can do to help myself. So I decided to join a gym. At one time in my life, I was 410 pounds and my knees were shot. So I had my first knee replaced and I went to physical therapy for that. Joined the gym and I dropped, I was probably 390 then. So I dropped down 90 pounds. I'm down around 300 now. I joined the gym. I started lifting weights. My bench press was 65 pounds when I joined the gym, and I couldn't walk 3 laps around the gymnasium. My workout bench press now is 190, and I'm walking 5 to 7 miles a day. My heart function is up to 30%. I'm off all heart medications. I'm off all diabetic medications. And I continue to just push myself and go to the gym 5 days a week.
So you listeners out there can't see me. I'm smiling because I got to watch Frank in this transition just on social media. Not a small feat. He was really written off. And he, like he said, like, hey, this book ain't done. And he got busy. Just to let you know, anybody, know yourself and push yourself. And if you don't hear we've said this before on the pod, doctors, I mean, they're just humans. You don't like what one's saying, go find another one and another one until you figure out this one here is a fit.
I feel like it can be really easy when someone who has a major medical background writes you off. It can be really hard to make your brain think maybe that's not true. Maybe I don't have to agree with this person. So I find that to be such a story of courage to go about it your own way, Frank, and give yourself that chance. Wow, thanks for sharing that with us.
Yes, fitness I found to be is one of the best medicines I've ever took. It does everything. I mean, from mood enhancement to physical endurance to strength, just fitness is a wonderful key.
Yeah.
So, Frank, we have a question. What is your favorite way to exercise or be physically active? I feel like you just answered it.
Yeah, the gymnasium is just part of it. I'm working on my overall self at the gym, but my favorite activity is horseback riding. And we do trail rides, and there's a event around here they do several different times during the summers called donkey sorting. And we actually go out and sort donkeys maybe 15 times during the summer. They put 10 donkeys in the arena, numbered 0 through 9. And they give you numbers of what you got to sort out in order without another donkey interfering with what you're supposed to do.
Oh, so it's a competition thing.
It is competitive, and it's the
Oh,
competition that I really love. It really pushes me to make myself better all the time because when I'm donkey sorting, my biggest competitor that I go against is myself, if that makes
there you
sense.
go.
Yeah, that
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. Exactly do you sort a donkey? Like, what do you do? Do you give them commands, or how the horse kind of leads them? Like, what does that mean?
Well, you're in a big arena. They put 10 donkeys in there, numbers 0 through 9. And for the trial runs, you have 3 donkeys to sort out. And you're on a 3-man team. And they'll say start. And when you cross the timeline, they'll say, okay, number 7. So then you and your teammates get 7, 8, and 9. And you have to bring them back over the line in order without another donkey crossing the line or without them coming back over the line.
Yeah.
I feel like you're describing something that requires not only the physically active component, but also you have the social connections with your team, and you have to use your brain, and you have to work with your horse. I feel like that's a lot at once.
It is, and the donkeys do not always cooperate.
I could see that.
The term buddy sour for horses is like 10 times worse than donkeys. So to try to get number 5 and 3 separated so you're not taking them both, that can be quite a challenge.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Donkeys are not a dumb animal either.
I wouldn't describe any animal as a dumb animal.
Well, where I'm going is they're actually very intelligent. So they might be ornery with you.
Yeah, I could see a donkey being like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, we actually have a donkey here at the house with our horses for a pet. And he's one of the most lovable creatures on this planet. He's like a big
my
German
gosh,
Shepherd.
you're so lucky. Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely. What's his name?
Radar.
That's a good one.
I love it.
When our daughter was a teenager, you know how teenagers try I'm going to have a boy come over at 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, the donkey would alert the dogs in the house, and then the dogs would start barking. So we'd know somebody was outside, and the daughter was trying to pull a fast one on us.
Thank goodness for the donkey.
The donkey alarm.
Yeah. The donkey watchdog.
Hey, Frank, what is something that you're looking forward to today or this week?
Tomorrow morning, I am getting up at 3 o'clock, and I am going on a horse shopping trip.
Horse shopping trip. You're going to have to explain that. It's not like a grocery shopping trip.
Well, okay, we have 6 horses here already, and 4 of them come from a ranch up in Canada. And the ranch from Canada is sending 14 horses down to Kelowna, Iowa tomorrow to the draft horse sale. So we are going to drive up to Kelowna, Iowa tomorrow because we like the attitude and disposition of these horses so much that we are going to go up and check out these 14 horses and see if there's not something that we can't add to our own herd.
Oh, right on. Is it quarter horses?
They are draft crosses. We have 1 quarter horse and we have 5 draft crosses. And one of our draft crosses is expecting a baby in May.
Oh,
wow.
How cool. Hey,
that's super exciting, Frank.
How old are generally the horses that the Canadians bring down?
2 of them I bought were 1 year old.
Oh,
and then the last one I bought, she was 5 years old and she was pregnant. So we bought her and brought her home, and she had a baby for us the next summer. And the ones we're looking at tomorrow are 2-year-olds.
How many are you hoping to get tomorrow?
Probably 1.
How does the process work? I've never bought a horse.
Well, most of these are like pasture horses that haven't been handled a whole lot. And we'll go up, and I'll get there early in the morning, and I'll go down to where the holding pen is for these horses. And I'll walk around the pen and see which ones actually come up to me, which is an indicator of which ones have been handled. And then I'll
Mhm.
base that off of the ones I'm interested in and see if any compare. And then when they bring them into the arena to show them, then I'll see how they carry themselves and, how they move, how they get around, make sure they don't have no injuries. And if I like it, we'll bring it home.
Wow.
Yay. Very cool.
We've had lots of guests, I feel like, who have come onto the podcast who are also horse lovers and horse owners and horseback riders. Can you tell us something that, like a fun fact or a fun memory or something just fun about horses?
The one I got now that was born here, that her mom was pregnant, that I got from Canada, she's 2 years old this summer. But last year, when we had another horse out in the pen that I had rescued and was saving it from, going to a bad home, it was hard to catch. And this little girl was 1 year old then, and we'd get three of us out there trying to corner this horse, and it would just blow right by us. Well, this little 1 year old horse figured out what we was doing, and she became our fourth man. She eventually figured out where this horse was escaping at. It was ducking behind the hay bale to get away from us. And she went up when it did that. She cut off the hay bale so I could corner it between her and the fence. And she's just that willing to help, that willing to work.
Very cool.
So I'm really looking forward to getting her started.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Hey, Frank, would you tell us a challenge that you've overcome that you are now grateful for?
I would have to go back to my health challenge on that, from basically being told there was no hope for me to lead a productive life to I got no expectations. I mean, the sky's the limit for me tomorrow. I don't set boundaries for myself because I can go beyond that anytime. So with no expectations, there's no disappointment.
Well, there you go. I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that. I feel so grateful that you brought that up. You told us about your story. I can't imagine the amount of strength and determination that requires, but not like one time, like every single day you have to wake up and make that choice for yourself.
After 3 years, it's not even a choice no more. It's a lifestyle. That makes what sense. It is.
Like muscle memory.
Yes. If I don't go to the gym, I feel bad.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting home and I get bored, I'll catch myself pacing in the house just to get more steps in during the day. Or when I'm watering the horses outside, I'm walking the driveway back and forth. Movement is exercise. So anything I can do to create movement, I'm bettering myself.
Oh, I love that.
I do love the pic that you always post of the horses and the rides that you guys go on. It looks like you're having a blast with those animals.
We are, and they're beautiful, loving animals. And I mean, they're a horse. We do get an occasional buck here and there. We get a spook. We're not going to cross this water hole today because there might be something in there that's going to eat me. But for the most part,
yeah. It's what is funny is just anything out of the norm. As they're on a trail, there could be just a paper bag that's wadded up. Just and that's enough. As they're walking, they're like, "Ooh, what is that?" It spooks and you're like, "Dude, that's just a paper bag. Keep going."
Yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Like horses like their routines. They like to know what's going on. They don't want a lot of change in their lives. I can relate to that. I feel like a lot of us can.
Here's a funny story. We were out on a trail ride, and there were two squirrels wrestling in a tree, and one fell out and landed on the horse. And
that probably
you can
was not
imagine,
funny for the rider.
Yeah. It was a trip for about 15, 20 seconds. It was just pure excitement.
I feel like that horse is probably recalling that story to the other horses for years to come.
And she's still scared of squirrels to this day. She watches them and sees them out on the trail.
Oh my goodness, that's so fun.
The day I was attacked by a squirrel.
Yeah, she's probably like pointing out to the other horses, like, see that? You don't want to mess with those.
And the same horse, I was riding her one day, and there's a snake going across the trail, and she just literally stepped right over the snake and didn't think nothing about it. And I'm like scared of
That's
snakes,
so
and I'm sitting
interesting.
up there worried.
Yeah.
And it didn't bother her that it was a snake, but it bothers her that there's a squirrel on the trail.
That is so funny. Oh my goodness.
Frank, when before you came on, Lex was like, "Well, who are we bringing on?" I'm like, "Well, we're bringing Frank on. He is the genealogist and the historian for our class, and we're hoping that you're going to share a silly story or two that I don't remember from our youth."
There is a story that I have about you. When we were on the football buses and the wrestling buses, you used to sing to us. You remember what your favorite song was?
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think I do know, but you tell me.
Lord, it's hard to be humble.
Yep.
What? I didn't know about this. I've never heard this before.
I've forgotten all about that too.
But why were you singing? Just for fun?
Yeah, I mean, we're just a bunch of goofballs. You know the song, right?
Mm-mm.
You know, "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble."
I just looked up the lyrics.
In every way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So you just did that for fun?
So you had Randy, 145 pounds, with the accompanist helping him sing, "Lord, it's hard to be humble." And then Chuck Berry's "Ding-a-ling" was their other favorite song that they used to sing.
Oh my gosh. Frank, that's so funny that you brought up the story of me singing on a bus. I think it was a bunch of us though, right?
Yeah, it was just one of those moments you really had to be there.
A moment lost in time.
Yep.
Frank, I have one more question for you. And that is, what is a piece of beauty that you notice in your everyday surroundings?
That is the simple everyday things. The other day I was coming home from the gym, and I got ready to turn on the road to go to my house. There's a cattle farmer that lives down at the end of that road, and he has show cows as well. In the pen by his house, he has a show cow in there that he's getting ready for this upcoming season. And that cow came barreling out of the little barn that it has there, and it acted like a calf. It was bucking, kicking, frolicking, and I thought, that's really strange. It was just the simple fact that that farmer was coming carrying a bucket of grain. The trust and the love that that animal had for that farmer, it made me feel good. It excites me to see a dog playing with a child, or, a game of fetch, or two kids out playing. If they're not on the internet, not on the phones, and they're out doing something outside, that thrills me to death.
Well, that's awesome.
That is a great answer.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. First of all, I love when you see a dog acting like a puppy again, or a big cow acting like a little calf. But I think that the most important part about that you brought up, Frank, is that you stop to notice it, because those things are happening around us all the time. And it takes us to take that moment and stop and watch and enjoy what's going on around us for us to fully experience that moment.
Yeah. Yes, there's just beauty in every day. When I first went to the gym, I was absorbed with time. I had other things I should be doing or could be doing in my head other than being where I was at. And over the last 3 years, time is irrelevant. That's the one thing I've learned. We got all the time in the world. We just got to use it to see the things that make us happy.
Good. Yep.
Frank, thank you for being on with us. It was a fun time, fun chat. I'm going to ask for one more story from our youth. Doesn't have to be about me, of the crew, or give us another funny story.
Yeah, let's hear about a story about you, Frank.
Yeah. A story about me from our youth?
Sure. Yeah.
I guess when we were kids, I attended school out on the west end. Yes, the good old schoolhouse out there. And during the winter time, about this time of year, we'd like to go sled riding because I lived on Bluff Park Hill. To go faster, we actually would carry buckets of water to help this hill ice it down a little bit so we could take our plastic toboggans and just zoom down this hill and have our races to see who got to the bottom first. And
Oh my
usually
gosh.
there's a crash resulting down at the bottom somewhere. Just
Yeah.
you're going so fast and you can't stop. And it was just, little things like that all throughout our childhood. And one of the people, she's still one of my best friends today. And we still get to talk about things like that. And once in a while, we go out to the park and we just hang out there and relive the past. We talk about the old stories of growing up around the park and playing in the park and all that fun stuff.
That's good.
I was telling Lex, you brought up a story that I don't remember, and it was about a spelling bee or a spelling test that we did.
That was
Tell her
our
about
weekly
this.
spelling test, Gibby. You were my manager. You're supposed to remember these things. We were in 8th grade, and we had Mrs. Knapp for a teacher, and
Yeah.
there was a couple other guys in the classroom. About that time is when they started serving milkshakes in the cafeteria at lunch. And Gibby came up with the idea that it'd be nice to have some extra money to go and buy a milkshake every Friday. So we had a pre-test on Wednesday, a test on Friday. And there was 2 other guys in the class. And if there's one thing I could not miss at was getting 100 on a spelling test.
Makes sense.
Gibby would make arrangements with these guys and bet them $1 a piece that I would get a better spelling test score than they did. And the first couple of weeks, that went really well. Of course, we won, but then they didn't want to bet no more. So Gibby told me I had to start on purposely failing the Wednesday test and missing 2 or 3 so that we could entice them to do better on Friday and get the money back so we could buy our milkshake on Friday.
Oh my goodness. You said 8th grade. Oh my gosh.
It worked.
Oh my goodness. And it worked.
And we did that the whole year.
Oh my gosh. Somewhere out there, these guys are telling these stories every once in a while about people who made them give $1. So and I think they used
Actually,
them
I
for
talked to
milkshakes.
one of them, and he don't remember it either. One of them did, the other one don't remember. So
Really? Well, that's so funny. Oh my goodness.
I would not want to remember just on pure principle. I don't remember that.
You don't remember giving away $1 every week for the entire school year?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a good one. Good memory.
Well, hey, I'm going to let you go, Frank, back to your Sunday. Thank you very much for joining us on the pod today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me on your pod today.
We really appreciate your time. So excited to have your episode come out. I love your talks about time, not only in the past, but looking forward, and just this open space for you or for any of us to capture the way that we want to. Thanks so much for telling your stories and just being on our pod. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Frank. Bye.
Thanks, Frank.
Bye.
Well, that was another fun guest. What was your takeaway with Frank?
I think my main takeaway is what he had to share about time. And he brought it up more than once. It's something that is really important to him. And I was thinking about how many of our guests have had different commentary about time and life and the time that we have in front of us.
Mm-hmm. People with physical challenges. I wasn't aware that Frank's was so significant. I just knew that he was like, I've been working out, and I see some pictures, and he's lost a ton of weight. But I was not aware of, I guess, the diagnose or at least the doctor's
and the prognosis.
Assessment.
Yeah. I am so inspired by his story about how he chose to say, nope, that's not the answer for me. And he did research and he learned what he needed to do, and then he made it happen. And like he said sometime in the middle of the episode, when I was like, that's a choice that you make, and he's like, nope, it's just my life now. I don't even have to choose that anymore. I feel like that really resonated with me, because as someone who also lifts weights, it's sort of like an addiction where you're like, I really need this in my life and I feel weird without it. Like how he said, like if he's at home, he's like up walking. Like it just feels good to move. And once you get in the habit of that, you just do it.
Yep. Keep moving.
Or if you're not moving, start moving.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like that
correct.
was his.
It's
his
not too
message.
late. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love the stories that he brought on about the horses, and I love a good cow story. I'm glad that he brought that up in our last question. And the donkeys, and oh my gosh,
Wouldn't
I
that be a
just
great video?
the
That,
cow
yeah.
just running,
Hopping around.
just for some grain. That is so delightful.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that I when I see like videos like this online, I'm like, this is what the internet was made for, was everybody being able to see these beautiful animals.
Yeah. Those are my favorite skits too.
Okay, what about you? So Gibby, you said you learned a little bit about Frank. Any other takeaways?
Well, like I said, I wasn't aware of the severity. I thought it was just a new health thing that he was into, but it wasn't a new health thing. That was to save his life.
Yeah.
And then I like his last little bit of the piece of beauty. It's
Yeah.
just the everyday things that you're passing by. Either you notice them and enjoy them for a moment, or you don't. And he's choosing to notice them.
And you know what? I think you brought up a good point by saying that you weren't aware of the extent of his journey and what things were going on. We don't always know.
Mm-mm.
We don't always know what's going on with our friends and our community and our family. We don't always have to know, but it is important to check in with people, ask how people are doing, take time to hear their stories, kind of like what Gibby and I are doing here on the pod, and make space for people so that when opportunities arise, we can connect and share with each other what's going on and be there for each other.
Yeah. You can check in with your friends, see how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Is that another one?
That's another episode of Porch Swing People. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find all of our episodes on YouTube and on Spotify.
Porch Swing People, out. Cue the music. Porch Swing People is recorded and produced by Lex and Gibby. Opening music was written and produced by Michael Gibson. Porch Swing People is a podcast featuring everyday people. If interested in being a guest, email us at porchswingpeeps@gmail.com.